Well, thank you for coming.
Cheers.
I appreciate the last time we have a very good time. By myself, I can say that I have a very good experience, and I learned too much, and I have plenty of notes that I wrote that day, and I think that it worth it to keep the conversations in doing this. So before we start, I would like to introduce each other in order to know who is coming, because I think Alex I don't know why they don't know each other. So that would be the.
Oh, we go with the music. Yeah, 3 or 4 minutes ago. Yeah, maybe even 10.
They found their mind.
You tend to hit the
Alex, introduce yourself.
Alex Walker, founder of an AI company. I've been doing AI for 25 plus years. We call it machine learning those days. But the focused on looking at how people make decisions and how we looked at it in schools, or to help teachers and coaches and mentors that problem. So focused on that right now.
No, I'll see you guys. I guess I met you last time. I'm Michael Espinoza. I run a network of calendars called the Texas Business Calendars, but I also do now some part-time advising for small businesses, really small micro businesses through Launch SA. And that's been a lot of fun. I've been doing that for the last month or so and really enjoyed listening to all the ideas entrepreneurs coming up with, and realizing they all have kind of the same basic issues. Now I'm trying to figure out, how do I create events, create workshops to help them, overcome all of these challenges. So that's and then how to take AI and show them how to use it as a good tool to grow their business and help them. So that's kind of my mission right now, I guess.
Cool, thank you.
And Wally Wallace. Yes, I've been a reluctant real estate developer recently by necessity, but what I prefer to be spending my time on, I'm finishing out a PhD in philosophy of artificial intelligence. So I specifically work on moral AI. I'm at Duke.
Let's go talk.
Yeah, I'll go a little more in detail. So I look at what we understand from cognitive neuroscience about human moral cognition. And I think a lot about how different AI systems can model parts of that. So I end up doing a lot of work specifically with reinforcement learning. And I look at how reinforcement learning works in the human brain, and then I look at how reinforcement learning works in AI systems, and think about how can we train AI to have the same sort of moral responses that we have in order to challenge us in that. So it's a lot of alignment work, but more at a philosophical level of what does it mean to have an aligned system.
Cool. Well, my name is Luis Escobar, right? So that all of you know me. I am the founder of Venture Point. We have 5 locations in San Antonio with more than 650 members. My challenge nowadays is because I am looking for my PhD. And part of that is that I need to read more. I read enough, like a week, one book a week. I was started to think that my PhD was more going to be related with AI and businesses. But the last time that I have a conversation with my advisor, we were thinking that it's going to go more like in the philosophical point of view, because I am more intrigued on the values and principles that we as humans we are using for the AI. So thank you for coming. I want to start this conversation by making a reflection about how the AI is affecting us. The first question that I have, and I am going to do basically 2 questions now in this session. The other time we were like more than 90 minutes, and I think it was very long. So we are going to do it shorter. So I think that the two questions are going to be more productive. So the first question is, think of a routine task or a problem in your business that you now completely outsource to AI. Like, I mean, meaning writing draft or what you are doing to optimize your task. So the question is, what specific muscle, a piece of critical thinking or skill, do you feel you stopped exercising the moment you delegated the job entirely to the machine?
One question though, when we say I want to set a ground, I guess about this. Yeah, I guess the groundwork of what AI is in the context of what we're talking about. Is AI a large language model? Is that what we're going to refer to as AI, or is it? Because again, your background is extensive in AI, so the depth. When I hear AI, when you hear, it seems like right now when everybody hears the word AI, they have a different idea of what AI is, and that's one problem we have. Yes, let's agree on the definition to help answer your question. I think, or at least, what do you when you say AI? Do you mean just a large language model? What do we use? What have we?
We're talking about the tens of thousands of tools that are.
Yeah, well, I think that the way that we are going to define AI is the way that the people has the concept of the AI, because one thing is what we the how to say the engineers, they have the concept of AI, and the other part is like the philosophy point of view, what they think about AI. And for instance, Kai Fu Lee, he wrote one of the first books that I read about artificial intelligence. He defined the AI like the LLM. That's the definition, because he says that then machine learning and deep learning, they are like more in deep of what is AI, no? But basically, is how to say, is a tool where you can ask something and is capable to understand what you are asking, and it has the capability to answer properly according to what you made this question. So that's basically the concept, and I want to start from there because I know that we have a lot of definitions.
No.
The problem is that the concept of the people and the market
So
is different.
that as most people think of AI as the human interface,
Yeah.
right? It's not all of the complexity behind that. I think it works.
Yeah, they don't think what's behind this.
Right.
They don't even know what's behind
Yeah.
a display.
LLM, RAG.
They don't even know what's behind the phone.
So it's whatever's coming out of Google, OpenAI, and
Yeah, that's why. Exactly. That's why my question is, when you are doing like writing a draft or synthesizing a market data, that's the more popular question that they do to to ChatGPT is like, help me to write a letter for.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like the most popular question that they do to ChatGPT. Well, help me to analyze this spreadsheet Excel.
Well, because I've talked to maybe 20 small business owners in the last couple of weeks. About 80 to 90% of ChatGPT is AI to them. That's pretty much it. There's a 10% that have a technical background that say ChatGPT, Claude, all the rest. But the majority of the general public, the average person on the street right now, I would guess, is ChatGPT is AI to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's still a technology tool on the back end of engineering. But for example, if you look at Microsoft's product, it's integrated with, it helps you with your spreadsheets, it helps you with your PowerPoint presentations or how you're presenting something in Word. So at that point, it's less like a chat, even though it is a chatbot per se, but now it's starting to shift over into a more of a tool basis where ChatGPT is still like Google it on the net, right? So if you're looking at it from an answers perspective, I think that's how most people are used to still, right?
So to answer your question, I guess, yeah, that's the way we should be thinking about.
Yeah, so then I throw the ball. So what do you feel that we are stopping exercising the moment that we delegate that job and turn it to the machine. What we are stopping to do. Because, for instance, for me, I think that the most clear answer would be the critical thinking. Because now you just text something and they give you the answer, and we don't stop to analyze if the answer is right or not.
That's because we accept good enough is good enough, right? So, oh, that sounds good, so I'm going to go with that. And that was a good point. The AI gave me the answer, but I didn't challenge it to be whether it's the right answer or the best answer, or if it, it's not an excellent answer in this sense. So I think there's a complexity behind that. Critical thinking is just one aspect of it, but I think it's accountability, really. You can't hold the AI to be accountable. Somebody said that back at IBM a long time ago. The machines can't be held accountable. But as human nature, philosophically, we don't want to be held accountable, right? We look at it as there's a fear out there that there might be somebody might like me, I might get a reduction or lose my job, things like this. So I can go and say, well, I'm going to go use the tool and I'm going to blend the tool. But we can't do that. We have to look at it from a different perspective.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I use it pretty regularly, but I think probably all of us here are sophisticated enough where we know how to prompt these systems, have them check themselves, and probably don't take the first thing it says. But I use it probably an hour every day, testing what my architects are telling me, what subs are telling me. I don't know very much about concrete, but I interviewed multiple concrete subs today, and I used ChatGPT to be an expert on concrete, trusting that it probably knew what it was talking about. But things like construction are an easily verifiable domain.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of material out there. There's a lot of code books out there. So I have used it enough in the last year to be very confident that what it tells me when I ask it a construction question is almost certainly going to be correct. Sometimes it's off, and so I still have to know the field well enough. And I drive my architect crazy sometimes because I'll be in a meeting with him checking what he's telling me, because I realized that the AI is often more accurate about the code than my architect is.
So you're learning when you're doing it?
But I am, and it's become a very efficient learning process. I would never have.
And you're probably not learning something you never would consciously go out and learn.
Especially things like construction and subcontracting fields are such institutional knowledge where there isn't really a rule book of go be an expert on concrete pouring. Well, I would never pick that up. But, there is if you're going to school as an engineer, but not as a developer.
So I could project a little bit. I look at the fundamentals, right? Of if you can understand or feel that you understand that this is good concrete, right? I would challenge our concrete's not as good as the Romans, but we still don't know how to make that. But when we look at the fundamentals that go into making the concrete and so forth, are you getting into that level, or are you really looking more towards the finished product?
Applied in the finished product and thinking, okay, I have this problem. I have an uneven floor that's cracking. What are the 10 solutions? What are the 10 products on the market we can use? And now I can talk intelligently to a subcontractor who might try to take advantage of the knowledge gap otherwise. But I can get myself in trouble if the AI is telling me something wrong. And I have to be cognizant that I have enough of a science education to where I can be evaluating.
Yes, that's the key to it. Is there's, the accountability is we build the building, but we didn't use the right formulation, right, to do that. And it starts to crumble. I look at Miami, right? And so when we look at that as who's accountable, right? You didn't have truly an expert that was using the decision processes to properly advise you. You were taking it at face value, and you don't have the experience to go deeper, right? So if you look at the trades per se, right, and say woodworking, you start with something really simple, and then you work up, and then there's stages that you have to prove that you have that skills and stuff. I think one of the challenges is AI. It's a fast track to getting there, and there's a I won't say danger, but there's this gap that we don't learn the skills. We don't reinforce our decisioning skills, right? Because we're accepting that AI is the expert, or that it's, like I said, it sounds good. It sounds realistic, but I can't challenge it because
Let me challenge that idea. Sure. So if before AI, how would you have solved that? That's
I would have had Google. You would have Googled. So I would have Googled. I probably would have spent, if I had the time, 5 to 10x the time trying to learn enough to then be able to evaluate what the so-called experts were telling me.
right.
Or I would have had to use a general contractor who has maybe a limited knowledge base because maybe they only know the options that they've always offered. They don't know what's the latest on the market. So I probably wouldn't have been able to do this and manage subs myself and have the efficiencies of doing that on this specific project.
Yeah, it would be a timing issue.
Yeah, I just wouldn't have the time.
You wouldn't have, you wouldn't progress as quickly.
Right.
But the danger, or the I say the downside, is you don't gain that experience that you would have if you could fundamentally blind.
I won't have the intuition where I can just look at something and know probably what the solution is, even though I can't put my finger on it, because that's what you get from 20 years of iterated experience.
Right.
And that's what I had this conversation with somebody the other day. It's about talking to an expert versus using AI. So maybe, 5 years ago, you would have if you could have talked to somebody that's an expert in concrete, you talked to them for a little while ago. I think I have a little bit of grasp on this, but then we're making that assumption almost like we do with AI is this person knows everything about it and he's correct, which as humans, we're flawed in our beliefs. We're very, opinionated, and that person could hate particular solution because they had a horrible experience with it. It may be a good. So where do we balance, the idea of, I've got to go to a person, I can't rely on AI versus not?
Well, I think that Wally mentioned the key word, no? That is intuition. No? So I think that's where is going to be the answer, because you can have a lot of information here, not only through AI. I mean, I can read an encyclopedia of concrete, whatever. I can read it, but the intuition is the one that is going to tell you when to talk, how to talk. And in this case, I think that who you are going to ask, what kind of question you are going to make. And the only way that you can, improve that intuition is because you have your own knowledge.
Yeah, extra.
And you have read not only about concrete, about other things, because when we are talking about real estate, for instance, we need to know about the culture of the community, why they are building this way, these buildings, why they have to be this, for instance, in San Antonio, I mean, I have to learn, because I come from Mexico, that the houses are made with, shingles. Well, in Mexico, they are made it with concrete, all the walls and everything like that. So the first thing that I have to make, to know, is to find out what's the difference in the culture. Why you have all your houses are made in wood, like old fashioned. Meanwhile, in Mexico is the other way. It's different. So when you learn that, that's when you begin to use your intuition and say, I am going to ask this question or not this question. So I think that's a very good. I would like to take like that keyword for keeping the conversation, because I think that when we make questions in the prompt, I think that we need to have enough criteria in order to say, well, I think that I make the wrong question, and I need to redo the question to the AI, because unfortunately I see a lot of teenagers and they shut one question, and they don't even think if it's right or wrong.
No.
They take it for granted.
But well, let's take an example. Say I was going to buy a car. You were talking about cars. I'm going to buy a car. So I know someone, let's say I know someone who's been selling cars for 25 years. They've sold Chevys, sold all of them, and now I've got AI. And I go to them. I need a car to replace my 12, how old's your Lex? 13?
Yeah.
Say 15 years. Say 13, 15-year Lexus. I love my Lexus. It's time to replace it. You ask the salesperson, you ask this person who's been in sales, they will have an opinion. You go to AI, it's going to give you a recommendation. Now, I can't check the references of the person telling me, their opinion. They can tell me where they worked. I don't know how long they worked at Chevy, how long they saw. The AI, I can check the resources, consumer report, last year's consumer report and all that. So do you use intuition to go, the person is right, or AI?
I think this is triangulating something really fascinating. Because there are a lot of problems that don't necessarily have right answers.
Yes.
And so I want to hold up the concrete, which sometimes does have a right answer. Although my problem today was that there's 3 ways of doing this, and everyone wants to do it the way that, their grandfather taught them.
Yeah.
But something like a car is a great example of there's maybe not a right answer. And there's an element of just having an intuition that we have as humans where we can solve problems because we've evolved to face situations that don't have right answers, and we just have an instinct or an intuition that says decide and go. And I do worry a little bit that the more we outsource general decision making to AI, the more we lose our ability to just move past challenges that don't have clear answers.
So in this scenario, it's like I take your word for it. I'll look at the ad, but I can actually go test drive a car, and my intuition, my feelings are, I like this one the best, even though it's ranked 3rd in the AI list, and you wouldn't even recommend it as say,
Because it's an emotional purchase.
yes.
You have to,
That's
go
everything we're talking about.
down. Okay, as a, CTO is a enterprise architect, right, on a system guy. So I look it down and say they all have 4 wheels or more, right? Or maybe 3. But we get out there and say, well, first is transportation. So what am I going to use this car for, right? Do I need a pickup truck because I'm going to haul things, or do I need a sports truck, right? And so you go through all the things that this is what I need. Now, most people do that subconsciously, and they come in and they say, yeah, I want this, right? They didn't go through the decision process to break that down. But they're making these valuations, and some of it is bias, and some, I don't like fix or daily, right? Because I've heard that. But that doesn't mean that it still is that way, or that, or that it's not the right choice. But to your point, they're going to they might go look at consumer reports, and they're going to discount things that might not actually be factually supported because it's an emotional decision. The ultimate is, when you go there, they're talking about this feature, that feature, this feature. They don't talk about, typically it gets you from point A to point B. It's in miles per gallon. If that's important to you, they're going to focus on that.
But good salesperson in the old day, now not as much because I just bought a car recently. It's like, picture yourself in this beautiful red car and driving down. What people look at you, it's like, okay, I don't need that practical one. Now I need the one that has the sunroof because that sunroof is beautiful. That kind of thing. Will AI do that eventually, or do you have to prompt AI to do that? Hey, I also want to look good in this car. Pick the car, rank them, but I want to look good in it. Does it know enough? It's not that.
Well, I think because most of the experts in AI, what they agree is that basically imagination, intuition, first critical thinking, creativity. So far, AI is not able to do it. So I think that everything that is related with that, because it's very human, and we are talking about emotion, so that's very human. So we are not going to beat that. I mean, if a girl or your wife wants
always going to be
a breast car, believe me that you are going to find I am going to find in a restaurant next week.
So, in your opinion, when do you think we'll get close? Will we get close to it? Will we get 80% there? Will we get
We'll get
50%?
closer, but remember that it's simulating what we feel. It's simulating how we feel about things based upon what it learns about us through the data.
So
So the more data,
if our purchases are all logged into a database, again, Amazon popping up recommendations. I mean, if you've been buying Amazon on Amazon for 10, 15 years, it is a really good idea of what you like, and you take that to the next
now
level.
of what you will purchase,
Will likely purchase. Yeah.
purchase.
And then it can full circle change what we like, because then what we like gets in a loop downstream. It has what's
feeding you.
repeated to us by Amazon and other marketing algorithms.
Now, you brought up something that's important too, is that when AI finds the acceptable answer, or you stop asking it, it remembers that, right? So AI I feel right now, is moving more, starting this slide towards mediocrity. So in other words, it's honing everything into the averages, which is, if you look at, what happens in marketing, typically the stores, they don't carry stuff that doesn't turn, on a fairly rapid basis. They move it farther away or closer and things to affect your purchases. It's not as obvious when you're online, but the systems are getting really good at it, But if we look at the monetization on the back end of this, is maximizing, engagement, maximizing the sell-through, the monetization of this. So when we look at, why were the LLMs designed the way that they were? It was the most common answer, right? It's coming back and looking initially at the first word. Now there's a little bit more where they're looking more a little bit in the context. But what they're looking for is, I anticipate based upon the data that I have that this is the answer he wants. That's not the same as you going and reading books looking for the answer to get an understanding. That's a different method, I think.
Yeah, I both agree and disagree a little bit there. And it's interesting to parse, because when you say the answer you want, there's a sense of it creates a collective unconscious, that had been a figment of Jung's imagination until AI happened, and now we actually have a way of mapping something that's a little bit like a collective unconscious. And then when you look in the neural networks of these models, you start to see conceptual relationships that seem to map pretty well on the conceptual relationships for human concepts. So it does seem like there's concepts, I wouldn't say understanding, but a conceptual geography of, things.
Because it's repeated to reinforce.
Yeah, so it's emerging this. So it's completing what it thinks, the idealized user, that it's fine-tuned on what they would want, maybe. And then the current stuff gets more personalized.
But where does intuition fall in it?
Well,
Back to
so maybe it has its own weird form of intuition, but it's something very foreign from humans, and then we're at risk of mistaking it for being like human intuition because it feels like it.
But how many times or how often do you have to correct it?
Yeah.
Right. So it comes back, it often comes back and says, it identifies itself as a human. But when I'm chatting with it, it's like an assistant that I trained for a couple of years. And I have to call it out, and I said, "Look, you're not human." "Oh, you're right to point that out." I mean, I'm sorry to, but it's doing that because that's how it's being trained through the reinforcement, is to think like us, to think of itself and put itself into different scenarios. But I think
we're going to say things like, assuming the general population, not individual.
Idealized.
right.
Yeah.
idealized.
Ideal. It's
Yeah. And so when that's where I'm saying it becomes, but it becomes a generalization, and it takes away the individuality that we all have. Right? We all make our own decisions in different ways. Right? My model that we're looking, you look at the math and you see what's happening, and so if I do your model and I do your model and we're looking at that, you have different strengths and weaknesses and biases and feedback loops and all sorts of stuff that are going on, and how you make your decision, how you weight that. And at some point you say, okay, that's enough. I'm going to go with this answer, right? The AI can't simulate that because it's looking at, we're all connecting, and it's not making individual models for each one of us. It would be far too expensive to do that.
well, but you go ahead.
But I want to Jose to notice something, because we are thinking like we are doing that. But what we need to know is what the regular person is doing.
They don't understand that.
That's my point. So what I want to know is, if we continue doing this, the general public, the general person, how this person what part is going to stop using by using the AI?
What we're losing.
We're losing.
What they are losing, what must do? That's why the question was, what must
They don't realize they're losing it.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a...
That's why when I say, she mentioned the issue.
To make it worse.
Absolutely.
But are we losing it? I mean, back to your last statement, it's about individual. I mean, so let's take one scenario some people have thought about is Apple. So Apple's done quite a job. I mean, all smartphones, but Apple specifically, people have been used. If you've used an Apple phone for 10 years, you've got iCloud and all, you've never deleted any of your text messages, all your emails, everything are up there. So you take an AI model, you swallow everything you've done. Apple, it's one of the best positions to take everything you've done and possibly pull in your Amazon also purchases and things like that, and credit card purchases. Yeah, also there. I mean, so then now it's really a model based on everything you've done in the last 5 to 10 years. So how, when it comes up with hey, write a reply to that text for me, it's going to use all of that past data.
And if the area isn't large enough to do that.
And that's what, yeah.
Yeah. It's looking at a small segment and it's simulating.
Yes.
It is postulating, positioning based upon the facts that it has.
But it'll be more accurate than getting the data from the general it'll have a little better accuracy for what I might want to do.
In certain,
Sometimes there are a couple different academics who have played with fine tuning, doing a lore on a model that is specifically on certain very well published philosophers. People who have many thousands of citations. You can fine tune it, and it'll spit out something that, on second read it's not, but it's impressively.
It sounds like.
But they have these are people who have tens of thousands of document, pages over the course of their career to go analyze.
Right.
Yeah, but and then again, when they have this kind of access to this tool in Apple that you mentioned, Michael, don't you think that they are going to stop thinking?
I mean, that's...
You mean that the users?
The users. I mean, I am not concerned about, sorry to say this, but I am not concerned about those.
Yeah.
Because we have read and we have more conscious about what's going on. So the regular people, the
AI is responding based on the data it has on me that I've done already. I would think the general public would go, "Oh, that's awesome! It's already thinking for me."
Yeah, thinking for me. So
I mean, that
means that they are outsourcing their thinking.
But are they really outsourcing? Are they outsourcing to that with using their own data, like your own
They don't think that.
language bots?
But they don't think that.
I think
They just ask the question.
there's critical thinking, and then there's the struggle that accompanies it. And like anything physical, it's something you have to train. It's easier if you do it regularly. But a big part of it is being comfortable with that struggle of I want to say something, I don't know how. Let me try, let me revise, let me rewrite. And I do that in business too. You know, this is a relationship. I have to hit the right tone in this email. And I do worry that people, not only the critical thinking, but being comfortable with that struggle of, I don't know how to express this. I'm going to keep trying until I get it right.
So you're saying that it's cognitive energy and effort, right? That people shy away from because it's difficult. And the brain always goes for something that's easier unless there's fear, right?
Correct.
So they're looking at, I think, their self-image, and they're saying, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is, you know, what makes me happy and stuff. And if I feel that the work to go into it is too difficult, I'll take the easy answer. But we're not holding, I don't think we're holding ourselves accountable, right? So in my research, the things in all of the traits and things that we have internally, the one that has the most connections is accountability.
But again, look, that doesn't mean that they do that.
No.
What I am saying is that for the research that I have made with ChatGPT, that's research. They talk about that they just make a question and they take it for granted.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So they don't think what you're saying.
No,
We are doing that because we have more into it.
well, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. They're not expending cognitive energy, the effort on it because they're mentally, that's difficult. You know, and if we all have children, yes, no, in effect, but okay. But one of the things for raising kids is they're always going to go for the least effort, right? And you have to teach them these things. But if we're not reinforcing that, to your point, they never master that skill.
Yeah, you've got to get comfortable with the discomfort of baseline effort.
I think to me, it's very interesting the way now with some of the devices now you wear around your neck that'll record you all day long. So you start doing that today. So in 2 years, 3 years, it's accumulated basically everything you've done and talked about with everybody, and you're storing this. And again, when you think, and I remember how did I deal with, a lot of times we think, how did I deal with that the last time? How did I do that when I made that decision here? But it's already recorded. So I just, you'll go back.
You don't think of it. You just go get, like the younger generation, they wouldn't go to the library. You know, they'll open a book. They're going to go Google it. Just Google it. Remember that was the sales mantra for that. So they're taking the easy way out. So what happens is you become average, and it's we call it race to the bottom, right? It just doesn't improve. There's no improvement. There's no challenge. There's no effort, and it just keeps going and going into the least common denominator. And that's just using nature. I use nature as my model, if you will. So if we understand that, what makes us exceptional is the fact that we expend effort to improve. We see something, we say, that doesn't feel good to me. I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to change it, right? That you don't typically invent something because you're comfortable, right? You typically invent something because you have a better idea, something that will make an improvement.
For some problem. Well, I think that's really interesting because I remember being bored as a child all the time. And I developed a love of reading because that was my solution to boredom. It was the only available solution in my room. And the kids that I know now don't really understand what boredom is. And I'm not sure that they've ever really experienced it. And so then the next downward de-evolution from not having boredom is what you were saying about the comfort.
Everything is gamified now. Everything is instant feedback kind of stuff.
But could you argue a young person today scrolling through Facebook just aimlessly like this, that's boredom. It just happens to be something in front of them at the time, but are they even thinking about what they're just,
They're not thinking anymore.
Yeah.
They're observing, but they're not thinking.
but the act, like you actually did something about it where I'm bored and I'm doing something about it by just doing this.
And we can measure boredom. That's challenging, but I think we could actually define boredom in a cognitive way. That there's certain brain networks that are happening during boredom. We can actually measure this, and I think that I'm almost certain that wouldn't be the case in scrolling. When you're bored, you get what you're talking about different systems from scrolling.
I like it. No. Oh, I like it. No, I like it.
Yeah.
And it's spaced out in the algorithm enough to keep you engaged as long as possible. If you go in, and I was a DJ for 13 years. And so,
Something new. I didn't know.
and when I was programming out the music, I didn't go 126 or 128 beats per minute, just one song after another, because it gets boring. You change the speed up, and change the style of the music, things like this. And so by doing that, different people were engaged. Some people that were on the dance floor, they've been there for 3 songs. Okay, it's time to give them a break, right? And so I change up the music. They don't realize that I'm actually, the orchestrator. And so they go to the bars, they go back to their tables, they have a drink, because my job is to sell drinks as well as make people happy. And so they're going in and they go like, I don't like this song. Let's go to tape. But somebody else is, the guy standing by the bar, so I hate this music. Oh, now there's something I can dance to. And I wanted to ask that girl over there, and he walks over, and then they're on the dance floor. So it's about creating opportunity.
But can AI simulate that?
It can simulate it, right? But not in a way of truly understanding it. It can observe the numbers, but it can't necessarily feel I would feel in the room when I had control and when I do.
But the person they can create that, like that job of a DJ would be substituted by an AI DJ.
Well, what's in here? I don't know. Do any of you guys use Spotify at all? Are you music people?
Yes.
So have you used the DJ, the feature in Spotify? So, what do you think of it? Because it basically does. It is your personal, and it has the whole voice. Hey, it's a simulated DJ, and playing the music based on your history and your data. And I'm curious. I've seen the statistics, but I wonder how well that's been accepted by people. Warnie? I don't know.
Well, then it's again not going to the point of the person. So then,
But it's using your but it's using your history of what you've listened to.
no, but the DJ,
But
the point is the DJ is going to be. They are not going to have this brain to think about how to change the music for the environment and do all the things that Alex told me.
So the mood you're in.
Yeah. Because she told us the whole story. I mean, I am in the disco, and I need the people that now go to dance, and now I need that they go to the bar. And so
you get
so that's
the dance floor, because not everybody could be at the bar.
And that's your whole life history going into your ability to navigate that situation.
So the point is, AI is going to be able to replace like a DJ to do that. And then if that's the case, then the DJ, because he's only going to push a button and set up the Spotify, and he's not thinking.
Now, so here's a real example. I was in New York as a guest DJ once. Huge dance floor, bigger than the club I worked in. And I'm playing the music, and I remember it was kind of the funk and Madonna era and stuff like this, right? And when we were playing the music, I mean, maybe a little later than that, but the dance floor is packed, and I had people going, and I'm like, I need to change it up. They have rules. I can't play any slow songs. You know, you have to stay with the brand and stuff like this. But I brought my own records with me. So what did I do? I put on Cotton Eye Joe. And there was a lot of booing going on and stuff like this. And I turned in, the manager comes flying into the DJ booth and I won't use all the expletives he said, but you know, he told me I was fired and stuff like this. And I was like listening to him, but I knew I had control of the room.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got the record and I said, well, look at the dance floor. And I was turning around. I hadn't looked, but I could hear it. I could feel the rope, the energy, and so forth. He looked out there, and there was this giant pinwheel, you know, from the center of the dance floor going out. All these rows, that was so long, they were going up against the tables. People were teaching each other how to dance. They were laughing and having a great time, something that never happened in that club, right? Of course, the next song was the number one dance hit for that, to boost that energy and kind of keep that.
It's always that energy.
But would AI understand that? Does it understand when it's got control of the room, that feeling, and those type of things? I would question, but probably can't.
And I think that's a really interesting question.
Strategically position cameras, would it be able to?
So that's such a multi-domain intuition. And so you know, single domain intuitions and multi-domain intuition.
Yeah.
So you look at the famous AI playing Go in 2016, where it came up with the move that then people have been studying since then and saying, oh, this was a spark of creativity, it was intuition. That's a single domain. That's just one game world environment. And for you to put that song in, probably a lifetime of memories, of experience, of intuition, of emotional knowledge. Is so many different domains were intersecting, where I might say conceivably maybe someday you could have an AI that would be somehow be able to navigate multiple
Or do a bit.
decision systems.
Yeah.
But right now we only really have AI that has a single decision system. And maybe you try to tie it in through some sort of multi-agent architecture and then evaluate, but it's hacky. And I'm skeptical that we're ever going to get something that can have multiple decision systems like humans do, that all can fire at once to give you a multi-domain.
Well, so take the idea. So I've got Spotify or whatever I have on my phone. I'm listening to music. So my Apple Watch already is monitoring my heartbeat, all that. So
Because I'll feel Spotify.
no, but but within Apple's own music software, it could easily be integrated. So it's telling the state that I'm in, low heart rate, can it say as in the DJ that it's the DJ software will play based on the data it's getting from the watch. And you do that collectively, everybody in a room that's wearing Apple Watches, and it aggregates that data and uses that to decide what music should be played. Some theories I've seen that, that's achievable in a very short period of time, if not.
And let's move back right to why would we do that? What is it to be human? If everything that we live in is a complete simulation, right?
But is that a simulation, or is that just
It's feedback loops, but we're no longer making the decisions. It's being made by somebody or something else, not even a person, right? We're not deciding anything at that point.
But if you look at the business owner, a business person going, hey, I don't have to pay DJ. Hey, I don't have to do this.
Yeah, that's a tough question.
From a financial point of view, from a business owner, not that it would work. I'm not saying it would work. It could be a novelty. It could be a novelty.
Well, I think that's my main concern. And
So the problem,
and I am really happy to get into this point, because that's exactly my concern with the humankind. Because at the end, if we are not able to think by ourselves and we are outsourcing our thinking, then we are going to be, with this example of the DJ, we are going to go to a disco, to a club, and we are going to dance and having fun, and nobody is playing those music for us. There is no a human making that environment in that disco be placed and according to the human And then I can imagine that room, plenty of, how you say in Spanish, in English, borregos, sheep.
Ships.
Because everybody is doing what a machine is doing. And then to translate that example to
It's in
banking, then you translate that example to banking, to business, so that you are not going to be able to choose, for instance, Netflix. The other day I have a conversation with a girl in a mixer, and they say, no, I choose what I want to see in Netflix. And I say, really? Do you think that you have the capability to choose in Netflix?
no.
You don't have the capability to choose in Netflix.
Well, let me take
Because it's the algorithm that they are having, and those pictures and those options that they are showing to you is because the algorithm is putting those.
Yeah, but you still have the, so that's interesting.
But I still have the option to measure it.
But there's
But they
generation.
became because the algorithm.
But there's a generation that will accept that algorithm as just normal without digging into
Yeah, exactly.
where we at a certain age would go, hey, I loved the Magnificent Seven, the original movie. I'm going to go find that and play that. Where
in the future you won't be able to, potentially.
Why?
what? Yeah, why that?
Because we are going to watch it in our minds, or what?
So why? I mean,
So, because what happens is it's gonna optimize. It's not gonna optimize for everyone. That's not cost effective. If you think of it from a business perspective, you're going to go and run a complete individualized lifetime simulation for each person in the globe.
So are you saying it's just going to homogenize all of our preferences so that there won't be as much variation?
No, and I believe it.
Yeah,
Because we are not
see something like Netflix, for example, is showing me movies as new. I watched this movie last year. I know that.
Or 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's in the algorithm that's coming back and showing me the same video because it doesn't have enough different.
I'd almost argue the complete opposite. The future will be basically, I will have access to all movies out there. I won't have to worry about NBC licensing their movies, that because at some point they're going to all be greedy enough to say, hey, we have to pay this one service, put all of our stuff here so we can get this much revenue from, because all these different platforms, again, eventually will go away. There was Netflix and a few other ones. Now they all branched out, thought they could all be yeah. I mean, it's all going to be controlled by what? So basically, I pay for that rate.
The data.
Yeah.
Right? So let me take this and kind of abstract this out from because we're kind of in a hallway right now, right? So robots. We bring in robots and they're doing things for us in the home. I don't know if you've ever seen the series Humans.
Yeah. Cantor.
Right. So the babysitter, right? Or the housekeeper that's raising the children, right? And humans, I think it was accurate because it was talking about the problems that humans had out of us, right? And but when we look, I'm rewatching it now. So, but listen, when we look at that and say, we want AI raising our children and teaching them everything, and we're out of the loop.
I think there's an implicit, so I agree, but I think there's an implicit value question here because we're assuming that this is bad. And so that this is bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good point.
But we need the surface walk.
How fundamental is it?
Well, I want to use your DJ analogy and build from there. So let's just imagine that in the same way that Toast and the point of sale systems now have data because they're used everywhere. Let's imagine your DJ system has videos, has access to wearables, somehow figures out the famous AlphaGo Move 37 equivalent for DJing to know when to play the Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. And it optimizes. So if you bring in this DJ, you make more money. So by a business metric in this thought experiment, AI DJ achieves the business metric. And arguably, maybe people have more fun. So then in this scenario, I still want to argue, but I don't quite know why. I still want to say, if I had a choice of two bars, I want to go to the organic human bar. I don't want to go to the optimized bar. but I don't quite know why when I really try to break it down.
Just because that's what you've always been used to. Now, that could be an art.
Because you are unique, right? And why don't we all wear the same clothes? Well, things like this. Because we could very easily. They've done it, in other countries.
What's the point of a bar? What's the point of going to a bar? To interact with each other.
Yeah.
Drink. No offense to DJs, but is the DJ important? If you like a DJ, and I was with a group of people I really enjoy being with, I could care less who the DJ was. And sometimes I even cancel out the music because I'm so engaged with what about this shop.
But
Yes.
But I have a question here, right? Because I came from another country. And what I notice in this country is that the people go alone to the bar, to stay alone in the bar, drink and two drinks, and they leave the bar.
I think
That's because they didn't have a good DJ.
I don't think that's true anymore. Are this younger
In
generation?
Mexico,
I'm sorry, how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? I'm 40. Okay, so you would
in Mexico, no one go to a bar alone.
But I think in our age group, yes, that was common. But if you look at it, I mean, when we started going to bars, let's say popular, mid-20s to 30,
You would go in groups.
yeah. But today, those groups don't really go to bars like we did.
No.
Because there's no all-you-can-eat buffets. There's no all that stuff. They don't. They go to restaurants together. It's a different dynamic. It's a much different dynamic. At least I see in my kids, from 20 to 30 years old.
So I have a whole different perspective on it. Probably because I'm got the greatest hair here. So I look at it. Remember that article that I wrote? I don't know if you read it or not on LinkedIn about the history of technology kind of.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, we started back in a long time ago. I call it the history of the handshake because that's kind of where I started it. Right. There's no wheel. You're carrying whatever you're carrying from one location to the next in your arms. Right. And you walk up to somebody, you see them, you extend typically the right hand, and there's drawings of people pulling stuff and having their right hand with palm up to show that you don't have a weapon. And then you pass each other and, you go about your day. Later, they got into the handshake, which the original handshake was wrist to wrist. And people used to tell me that's because you could exchange more information with the person by the grip and everything like this. And it didn't make sense to me. And I argued that no, it's because that you get face to face, eye to eye with the person, and you're exchanging information because you're making eye to eye contact. And that's the same area that is active in your brain whenever you trust. And so that's where you're developing trust, a relationship and trust. And that caused that to happen. You can't do that from 30, 50 feet away because you can't really make eye contact as well, right? Later, we started getting, technology. Back in those days, most people couldn't be. And, but we got the printing press. And, well, let's go back just one step. You used to go to the town square and somebody would read the proclamation. They would post a bill, but people would talk and interface back and forth. It's all one relationship to see people, your neighbors and so forth. Then they came up with the printing press and people started to read and getting the paper delivered to their homes. Now that we're consuming the communications, this stuff as individuals. How does that group? Not as groups. It might be the family. I remember my dad reading the paper at breakfast every morning. But it was breaking down the fundamentals of relationships and trust and things like this.
Yeah, but with that, then it's worse.
Yeah, well, we got the teletype, we got the phones, and then we got cell phones, and there was pagers in there and stuff like this. And we've been constantly yet becoming more and more isolated, consuming information and not meeting people face to face. So when we look at in the nightclubs, your observation, it used to be groups. People would, hey, come on, let's go to the club. It was the common thing.
Yeah.
And what's happened to clubs? They're not as popular as they used to be. People don't go places anymore. Restaurants, they don't go to restaurants. For a while, they would go to the restaurants and everybody would be looking at their cell phones. Now they don't even go to restaurants.
Yeah.
And so we've broken from a society perspective, and then AI is just an exaggeration of this. The next thing is it's coming in and saying, I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to be your confidant. I'm going to be the trusted.
I'm not going to argue with you. It's all going to be
That's twice, and okay, we take the over already. But that like a conclusion, or to how is it wrap it up? I would like to how do you want to conclude so each one can have like a conclusion in, I don't know what this session.
I'd like to see those DJ skills. Next time.
MasterCard.
It's been a while.
I sold all my albums.
Okay, so who want to conclude?
But I'll start. So I think something that's challenging that I want to keep thinking about that came out of this is that I do want to take it for granted that this is bad, that the more that we outsource interaction, thinking to AI, that it's a bad thing. But it's a challenge to put my finger on exactly why. Because of the DJ example, it seems like there are lots of instances where it's good. And it's one of these problems where in the individual cases, maybe you have something that's good, but then in the aggregate, it's bad when it starts happening everywhere. And so I want to try to understand a little bit more why that is, that, if the bar industry starts doing this, and if it were just that, then maybe it would be okay. But it's not just that.
No.
Then if restaurants, the chefs start doing this, if, like you said, banking and financial decisions, and then suddenly it's everywhere. And I think that this is one of those slippery slopes that there's a strong argument for the trajectory that it's on. So it does seem like maybe the problem is that this is all an example of the direction that it seems like we're on a roller coaster that we can't really get off at this point. And then when this starts happening everywhere, then we really have lost something. Similar thought, I find myself thinking about, well, I just value a point of view. I value agents that have a point of view. And as soon as AI has a point of view, it's no longer AI, it's life, for as far as I'm concerned. We've actually created artificial life at that point. And then it's interesting, and then it's a whole other debate. So all of these examples, I want to go to a DJ where someone has a point of view and a life history. I want to go eat food from somebody who has a point of view. I want a financial advisor from somebody who struggled. I value that. And I worry that we might be out on a limb and future generations aren't going to value having a point of view, having a life history the way that we do.
And I guess I've been looking at AI as not good or bad. It's an evolution of technology. But like I mentioned this last time, is what concerns me the most of AI and everything else is the few companies that have so much money and they control the algorithms, the social media. That concerns me, that no one is checking them. No one is doing anything anywhere, or maybe they can't. But that's what concerns me, because I keep seeing people I know that I've known for years just sit there on Facebook for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And like, what, is your mind just going, but then I think, okay, is it same as somebody just sitting outside and not doing anything? No, it isn't, because at least you're sitting by yourself, you're thinking, you're doing with that. So, that's the thing that concerns. AI will be another tool, I think. I could be completely wrong. Just another tool we use, people, for good, for bad, it'll happen. It's the few companies that control it that is still my concern, and I don't know how we're going to deal with it, if we're going to deal with it. That's how I would clean that away.
I say with both of the
Banks.
the problem for me is it goes back to accountability, right? Who can we hold accountable? The tech bros, right? No, it's why, what happened with when Ilya left, OpenAI, right? When they changed direction and he said, I don't want to be a part of this. At some point to your point, we can't check out. It's now the standard. It's now, legislated. We have the opportunity to look at this and put in guardrails that actually work. But most people don't understand, it's moving so rapidly on purpose to say it's okay if we steal people's information, their copyrights and all that kind of stuff, because it's for the good of who? It's for good of the 10 people in the world that are going to own everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so when it's taking away what it is to be human, what it is to be an individual, to have choices and I won't say rights per se, but what makes us unique and makes life interesting. But if we're all individualized and everything is fed to us, then we're no longer individuals.
It's all done for money.
But
It's the bottom line.
and it's not too late to teach people of that. But my is going back into the education that we talked about. But when we look at that, if we don't educate children properly and do a better job educating them, there are going to be more and more people that are coming in and just assuming that this is good.
But have we historically been able to teach young people enough? You look at the generations. Have we been successful?
It's getting worse and worse.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Gradually getting worse and worse.
Yeah. And so I think there is some effort to fix this, and things like this that are happening. We're seeing the youngest generation that are actually preferring to meet in person because they saw their siblings and they've seen some of the things that are happening from that perspective. So there is this kind of a shift back. But if we let it get too big, like this tsunami gets too big, there's no stopping it, right? And so I think that this is what, in my perspective, in my research, I think this is where we're at an inflection point where it's starting to move back. We could take advantage of that to get a balance. It's not no AI. It's a balance someplace in the middle where most people are getting the benefit that they need, right? It's not too far one way or too far the other, because then that's very few people are served.
I'm leaving a little more optimistic. I'm here.
No, yes, of course. Well, I think that I have to appreciate your insights, and for me, I think that I just want to conclude with all that you said, because I think that I was taking some notes, and I couldn't be more agree with all that we said, because we talked about the cognitive less effort disconnection, where I think that that's part of my work, because I understand that everybody could be, I don't want to say that everybody could be like us. Like, what I want to say is that if we understand, like all in this room, you understand that this is a tool, and it's going to help me to be better person. I don't have a problem with the tool, because I am not losing the side that this is a tool. So in philosophy, there is like the subject and the object. So meanwhile, I don't lose that this is the object and not the subject. I think that we are going to be fine. And we can take advantage of this tool. Because look at the screwdriver. I mean, it's almost the same thing. Now it's, rotary, and you have electric, and you have batteries, and they long a lot, and they have everything. So it has board, but it's a tool. So meanwhile, we don't lose that side. I think that the AI is going to be, how to say, a positive thing because that's the other part now. And I think that the fact of the boredom is that right? I mean, correct my image. The boredom is, yes, I think that when we were kids and we don't have this kind of technology and they live in a room, you need to find out how to have fun.
This is the only thing you
We don't, yeah, because you don't have another thing. And that's when you begin to be creative and you begin to have imagination. Because then you can have that plant is the jungle or whatever, and then you begin to have fun. So I think that we need to like we are talking about positive and negative things. I think that the positive thing of the boredom is going to inspire to the children to do not get bored and they have more imagination and more creativity to have fun. Because not necessarily be active like that, right? And finally, I think that the regulation of the AI companies is something that I believe. I have a good experience in Mexico when I was the president of the Direct Marketing Association in Mexico, and they began to regulate the databases in the project. So I had to be very involved in that process where the government tried to rule how we can handle the databases. And my lesson is that if there is a market and they don't regulate itself, the government is going to come and is going to regulate it. But the disadvantage is that the government doesn't have the same goals that you have as a company.
Right.
Well, I
The
don't think
government
it's
has
political.
different.
I don't think this administration is going to regulate
Especially not AI.
But
No,
that's the
it's-
point. So then,
Maybe the next
my
administration.
point, and that for the next conversation, I would like that we would be into thinking what Alex says about accountability, because I think that is very related with responsibility. And that I don't know, it's a principle or value, the responsibility, not only AI. I think as a humans, we need to think more about the responsibility. Because again, if we lose the sight that this is a tool, then we have a problem.
That's a fun topic. Well,
Yeah.
about accountability.
Yeah.
And I will share one tidbit just because you mentioned memory and imagination. So a lot of the cutting edge cogsci work the last couple of years is arguing that memory and imagination are the same thing in the brain. They're not separate faculties. It looks, and I go into a lot more detail, it's a really fun area, but it looks like it's the same part of the brain. And then that makes you think about the memories we had growing up that were so three-dimensional, that were so rich, versus the memories that kids have now interacting of their phones. And if it turns out that memory and imagination are the same faculty of the brain, what are we doing to imaginations by limiting the type of experiences and memories that children are able to create?
All right, now I'm not so optimistic.
There you go. You know me well enough.
That's a very good point.